Welcome to Pembina Pipeline's Corunna facility, where safety is our top priority. We want everybody to return home safely to their families. To ensure this happens, we believe in zero incidents by choice. No job is worth getting hurt over. Our expectation is that everybody demonstrate a commitment to working safely. While working at this site, you are responsible for stopping any work that deviates from Pembina's life-saving rules. Safety starts with me.
Pembina's Corunna terminal is ideally situated in the Sarnia-Corunna Chemical Valley on over 400 hectares adjacent to Highway 40. Beneath our facility are underground salt caverns used to store petroleum products. As the terminal grows and infrastructure is added, facility storage capacity will also increase. Commodities currently stored on site include propane, normal butane, refinery-grade butane, isobutane, and ethane. This orientation to site-specific safety at Pembina's Corunna terminal will give you an understanding of environmental, health and safety rules, guidelines, and expectations for personnel visiting or working in the facility.
Safety starts with me.
Safety starts with me.
Safety starts with me.
Safety starts with me.
Visitors and contractors must report to operations personnel in the 431 control room before entering into any Corunna terminal areas. Pembina operates an access card security pass system. Access to the various areas of the site is restricted depending on the personnel and companies involved. All contractors who have received the Corunna site orientation will receive a Pembina access card and will be expected to swipe in and out of the various areas. There are 3 pass types: employee, contractor, and visitor. Each contractor is responsible to notify Pembina of the termination of any of their employees and to ensure that security passes are returned to Pembina prior to the employee leaving our site. Protect your access card, as replacement cards cost $25. Any construction vehicle that is driven onto the site or resides permanently on site requires a site vehicle pass. Pick up a vehicle pass request form from administration, the project office, or from your Pembina job representative. Visitor vehicle passes are issued by safety, security, and emergency response personnel. Passes will be provided to contractors requiring their vehicles for transportation of equipment, tools, or other materials. Any vehicle provided access to the site will be required to have company signage on both sides of the vehicle. Contract supervisors need to be properly trained and understand their responsibilities for their personnel and the work being completed on site. Know who your Pembina job representative is and understand their role. All personnel working at our facility must acknowledge that they are properly trained to perform their job and are aware of the need to work safely. You are required to work in compliance with all applicable Pembina policies, as well as relevant government regulations and industry standards for the work being completed. You must use the appropriate tools and wear the required safety equipment for your work activity. Understand that you have the right to refuse unsafe work under the Occupational Health and Safety Act. When conditions change, all personnel must stop work and reevaluate hazards. You must also acknowledge that you will not come to work at our facility while under the influence of alcohol or illegal drugs. And you understand that smoking is only allowed in designated smoking areas. Non-intrinsically safe electronic devices including cell phones, smartphones, pagers, portable radios, and cameras are not allowed to be used in any of the process areas. Contract personnel are not to operate Pembina leased or owned equipment without authorization from Pembina operations personnel. If respiratory protection is required for the work being completed, personnel must be fit tested, properly trained, and approved for respirator use. All spills or releases, regardless of the quantity or severity, must be reported to the control room immediately. All equipment must have a spill kit. Spill trays must be placed under all gas and diesel-powered equipment. PPE, or personal protective equipment, is required on site. These include fire-retardant clothing, CSA-approved eye protection, CSA-approved green patch footwear, and a CSA-approved hard hat. The hard hat must be a Type 2 Class E with side impact protection. All personnel must have their name and company name on their hard hat. Wear a high-visibility safety vest or markings on your fire-retardant clothing when required. Wear appropriate gloves for the task being performed. Loose jewelry, clothing, and long hair must be secured when working in the vicinity of rotating equipment or other possible sources of entanglement. Remove all rings before working in any process, maintenance, or construction area. Personal protective equipment requirements may be increased based on the area or task. Increased PPE requirements would be communicated when the Safe Work Permit is issued. SWPs, or Safe Work Permits, are required for most work activities being completed in the Corunna terminal areas. SWPs are only issued by Pembina operations or maintenance personnel in the control room. In addition to a Safe Work Permit, work with higher levels of concern or risk will require additional reviews, checklists, and approvals, such as confined space entry and ground disturbance. If a Safe Work Permit is not required, personnel entering into any of the terminal areas will need to sign in and out on the sign-in board in the control room. All personnel must be aware of the hazards for their work area and the equipment that they are working on or near. Only one person signs on the Safe Work Permit as the permit receiver at Pembina's Corunna terminal. The permit receiver must communicate the requirements of the Safe Work Permit to others working under the permit. The permit receiver is also responsible for ensuring that work is completed safely by all individuals working under the Safe Work Permit. The permit receiver will ensure that the work area is cleaned up and left safe when the job is complete or at the end of each day. Before leaving the terminal at the end of the workday or when the job is complete, personnel must close out the Safe Work Permit or sign out of the sign-in book. If work under a Safe Work Permit includes the isolation of energy sources, you will need to sign onto the Pembina Lockout Master Log and install your personal or company lock on the multi-lock gang clasp for the isolation in the control room. The Lockout Master Log will indicate the location or positioning of the isolation points where locks and Do Not Operate tags are installed. If blinds and blanks are used as part of the isolation, the Corunna Blind and Blank document will be attached to the Lockout Master Log. Verify the lockout and isolation before signing the Lockout Master Log and issuing the Safe Work Permit for work on the system. Once work is completed, you must remove your lock from the multi-lock gang clasp and sign off on the Lockout Master Log and Safe Work Permit. Do Not Operate tags and locks must never be removed, and isolation points must never be operated under any circumstance. See operations personnel in the control room if you have any questions or if assistance is required regarding lockout or tagout. In the case of an emergency within the plant, a warning alarm may be sounded. In the event of an emergency, listen to the announcement, follow the directions provided, proceed to the most appropriate assembly point, and wait for further instructions. These assembly points include Building 431 in the control room or office complex, Block 430 in the Quonset Hut South Wellfield, Block 430 at the northwest corner at the railroad tracks entrance, Block 420 at the entrance off of LaSalle Line on the pedestrian gate, Block 420 at the west gate just off of Highway 40, Block 420 at the Quonset Hut on the west side of the main road. Contract personnel who work in outside areas are at greater level of risk during some types of emergencies. As such, understand that portable trailers are not safe shelters during these types of emergencies. Building 431, the control room, is the only designated shelter-in-place safe haven at the Pembina Corunna terminal. The instruction to shelter in place will be communicated by operations personnel to all personnel working on site. Be aware that personnel working at the Pembina Corunna terminal facility may be given the instruction to shelter in place in case of severe weather or the unlikely case of a chemical release. When the instruction to shelter in place is given, all personnel must immediately stop all work and proceed to the Building 431 control room safe haven. Direct other workers to stop work and proceed to the shelter. Follow all instructions given in the shelter and remain in the shelter until the all clear for the emergency is given and you are advised that it is safe to return to your work area. Please take time to become familiar with the location of the emergency equipment in the area where you are working, including fire extinguishers, eye washes, and safety showers. Report all illnesses or injuries, regardless of the severity, to your Pembina job representative or the control room. Proceed to the Pembina Corunna Terminal Control Room for assistance and treatment of occupational and non-occupational illnesses or injuries. Keep safety top of mind when operating a vehicle on site. Riding in the back of any truck or on the side of equipment is prohibited. The maximum speed limit is 40 kilometers per hour in all areas, and seatbelt use is mandatory. Do not use handheld cell phones or communication devices when operating a motor vehicle in the terminal areas. Drive only on marked roadways and avoid parking or driving off the edge of roadways to prevent issues with potential services that could be buried underground. Within the terminal, if you must park your vehicle on the roadway to access a work area, please leave the keys in the ignition so it can be moved if required. Flammable gas testing may be required for vehicle entry or for certain work activities in operating areas. Operations personnel will provide this service. Report all vehicle incidents, regardless of the severity, to your Pembina job representative or control room personnel. Do not leave vehicles running when unattended.
Safety starts with me.
Safety starts with me.
Safety starts with me.
Hand power tools can be a hazard in the workplace. For your safety, inspect all hand power tools prior to use and regularly as per your company policy. Use and maintain tools in accordance with manufacturer's recommendations. Tools must not be modified without written permission from the manufacturer. All electrical equipment must be protected by a ground fault circuit interrupter. The use of altered, homemade, or broken tools is prohibited. And remember, use the right tool for the job and only use the tools that you have been trained to use. A number of major chemical and physical agents are handled at the Corunna terminal. Contractors must ensure that their workers are Globally Harmonized System or GHS, formerly WHMIS, trained and understand how to use a safety data sheet before reporting to site. Chemicals may only be brought onto site by submitting a safety data sheet in advance to a Pembina representative and obtaining approval prior to arrival on site. Pembina uses an online system, www.msdsbinders.com, to maintain up-to-date safety data sheets for all chemicals on site. If you are going to work with any chemicals that are already on site, ask Pembina Operations for a copy of the safety data sheets. Pembina Corunna terminal areas are abundant with long naturalized grasses, which are the habitat for mosquitoes, wasps, yellow jackets, bees, and ticks. Please be aware of their presence and take appropriate precautions in warmer weather when their presence and activity is greatest. This region is also home to over 90 species considered at risk. These include bald eagles, red-headed woodpecker, spotted turtle, spiny softshell, eastern garter snake, and plants such as green dragon, American chestnut, eastern flowering dogwood, and blue ash. The protection of the environment while conducting our operations is part of Pembina's core values. Please direct any questions about Pembina's environmental commitment to your Pembina representative. In addition to taking steps to minimize our impact on the environment and working towards a goal of zero incidents, our emphasis is also on reducing, reusing, recovering, and recycling materials used in our day-to-day operations. Pembina's Corunna facility is a busy site with construction activities, ongoing operations, and maintenance work, presenting potential hazards that may change over time. A pre-job hazard assessment, or TASC cards as they are known here in Sarnia, are a standard safety practice across industry, going by many different names, but all have the following in common. The Pre-Job Hazard Assessment, or PJHA, outlines tasks step by step in a documented process. The PJHA explains in writing the actual or predicted hazards of each step. A pre-job hazard assessment defines the required controls and/or precautions for each hazard listed. It eliminates or controls the defined hazards by modifying the plan. All PJHAs are reviewed regularly throughout the day by site supervision for opportunities to improve the plan, and they are reviewed at the end of a shift for improvements. At the end of the task, the assessment is closed by the supervisor by signing off that the housekeeping is complete and no incidents or injuries occurred. Completing a pre-job hazard assessment begins at your worksite location. All crew members will participate in the pre-job hazard assessment and complete the assessment at the job site. Contractors are welcome to complete their own pre-job hazard assessment, but will also require a Pembina PJHA. The pre-job hazard assessment must be handed in with your work permit. Any individual visiting the work location must be briefed by a crew member and required to sign the pre-job hazard assessment. If worksite conditions change, the pre-job hazard assessment will need to be updated and re-signed. The pre-job hazard assessment must be kept with the work permit at the worksite for the duration of the task. The pre-job hazard assessment is only valid for a maximum of 1 work shift. Multi-day or shift tasks should use the previous day's pre-job hazard assessment as a learning tool to transfer knowledge. All on-site personnel share a role in continuous improvement. Submit near-miss reports and safety suggestions to Pembina personnel.
Safety starts with me.
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 There are 2 types of barricade tape used at various locations throughout Pembina's Corunna terminal. Yellow tape is used to convey caution. Personnel are allowed to enter the barricade only after they have read the tag and have fulfilled the requirements of the pre-job hazard assessment tool. Red tape is used to convey danger, do not enter. Personnel are not allowed to enter without the approval of the foreman or supervisor in charge. If entering this area with approval, you must wear all required PPE indicated for the specific hazard and fulfill the requirements of the pre-job hazard assessment. Tags must be placed on all barricades to indicate the supervisor who placed the barricade tape, the purpose or reason for the barricade, what PPE is required to enter, and the date the tag was placed. Absolutely no crossing into a red barricaded area without obtaining permission from the individual who installed the barricade tape. You must also review and sign the pre-job hazard assessment with a crew member. Understand that crossing a red barricade without permission will lead to discipline and possible removal from site. Exercise care when working near the electrical distribution system poles and lines. Also be aware that piping in some terminal areas is traced with 600-volt electrical heat tracing. There are 9 radioactive densitometers in service at the facility. The densitometers are located at well number 1, number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6 on the west side of Highway 40, and well number 49, number 52, number 56, and number 59 on the east side of Highway 40. Exercise care in these areas and do not approach these instruments if it has barricades or red barricade tape around it. Remember, red barricade tape warns workers that no entry is allowed. The HT-102 salt bath heater, as well as the piping in and around the boiler, can be very hot due to the heat required to maintain the operating temperature for the system. Exercise care and caution when working in close proximity to the heater and piping, and avoid contact which can cause serious burns. In addition, avoid contact with any piping or equipment that is frosted up, as contact can cause frostbite and burns. If liquid propane, butane, or EP mix contacts the skin, it can also cause frostbite and burns. At any given time throughout our facility, a variety of lift equipment may be in use. It is important that you understand the inherent dangers of this equipment as well as all safety rules and regulations. All cranes must be inspected upon arrival on site by a qualified individual. Cranes must be inspected daily prior to use. All cranes must be equipped with the annual inspection report, the operator's manual, the operator's log, as well as load charts, signal charts, and fire extinguishers. The operator must follow manufacturer specifications related to wind speed, as weather conditions may limit crane use. A spotter is required at all times. A barricade is required on swing radius of all cranes. The anti-two block device must be functional, and all lifts require a pre-job hazard assessment. The rigging must be performed by competent rigging individuals. The rigger is responsible for keeping non-essential personnel out of the lift area and must not direct the lift over personnel. Place all loads on blocks. Slings must never be pulled from under the load while the load is resting on the sling. Slings are to be used for lifts only and no other application. Any wire rope slings that show signs of excessive broken wires, bird caging, or core protrusion must be removed from service. Remove from service slings with damaged hooks, latches, eyes, or evidence of heat damage. Store slings in a dry, clean, and contaminant-free environment. Take care with synthetic slings around sharp edges and avoid getting wet. Use taglines on every load unless they themselves would pose a hazard. The use of a pipe or pipes, including conduit, as anchorage is prohibited. All lifting equipment must display a load rating for the device. All lifts must be inspected by a qualified person upon arrival at the job site. A competent operator must inspect and document all controls and safety devices prior to each use. All lift operators shall be trained by a designated competent person. A copy of their field evaluation and training records will be kept on site in the field office. The contractor must also issue proof of qualifications to each operator. Operators must provide proof of qualification in a timely manner if requested. When moving motorized equipment such as JLGs or man lifts in close proximity to equipment or other items that may be contacted, use a spotter in constant visual contact with the driver. Fall protection is required 100% of the time. Use a 4-foot non-shock absorbing lanyard. All on-site personnel share a role in continuous improvement. Submit near-miss reports and safety suggestions to Pembina personnel. The safety of our people and the general public and the protection of the environment are part of Pembina's core values, and Pembina's commitment is extremely strong. Our aim is to be the operator, neighbor, and employer of choice in the energy infrastructure sector.
Safety starts with me.
Safety starts with me.
Safety starts with me. Safety starts with me.
Safety starts with me.
Safety starts with me.
Safety starts with me.
Safety starts with me.
Safety starts with me.
Today, safety starts with you.